friends, it is Natalie and I am so excited today because I'm going to finally share with you all the YA books I've read since the summer. If you watch this channel regularly, then you know that I talk about all the books from the celebrity book clubs that I follow, and you get to hear how they went, and those are usually the adult books that I read. But you see all these YA books in book hauls, on TBRs, and then I never tell you if they're any good or not. So I'm going to make that up to you today by sharing about 30 YA books that I have read probably about since the summertime. So let's get into it. Most of you are probably not new here, and you know there is no organization whatsoever when it comes to this channel. I should call myself one chaotic reader. Actually, I might actually do that. That might be a good idea. I'm not going to share these books in the order that I read them, or from like the best to the least, or the least to the best. I'm just going to share them as they are in these piles I've made. Now, it just so happens that the first book I've picked up is the last book that I completed. In fact, it was on my last Skittles TBR, and that is Kingdom of the Wicked. And I know in my TBR I was showing you how beautiful this book is, but I didn't even get a chance to show you just how beautiful it is. That's the naked part of it, and it has a reversible cover, so wow, didn't get to share that with you guys because I didn't know about it. But this book was great. It had a great creepy kind of atmosphere to it. It was about these twins who are witches, and their grandmother was also a witch, and they kind of grow up hearing all these tales about demons and princes of the darkness, and they don't really take it but so serious until one of the twins, Victoria, dies, and she dies in a crazy way that Amelia finds. And Amelia then realizes maybe there is more to this witchcraft than I thought. Maybe it's not all superstition, and maybe my twin sister was into some dark magic herself. She ends up getting help from one of these princes of darkness, the Prince of Wrath, and she doesn't know why he's helping her. Is he doing something, good? Is he maybe not so bad? Or is he got ulterior motives? You have to read the book to find out. But I think this is going to be a great series. The ending, was amazing. It just set it up for the next one to be awesome. And I'm so glad I got a chance to read it. Sometimes I worry when a book is this beautiful that the story will be and not in this case. In this case, the book was beautiful and the story was really great too. So I really do recommend it, and I gave it 4 stars. Next, let's talk about Mind Games from Shauna Silver. I got this as one of my add-ons for a book of the month. And in this book, we are in the near future, and we're in a place where we can now sell our memories. Meaning, if I studied really, really hard for a chemistry test and my fellow person over here did not, I can just download my memories of studying for that chemistry test, and they can do great on that test as well. Or if people have memories of, adventurous, going skydiving, going skiing, things like that. People will actually be able to share those memories so other people feel like they are experiencing them. And our main character is Arden, and she actually, that's what she does. She sells memories, and she kind of starts getting into a bit of trouble when she realizes that someone's stealing her memories, and she's waking up not knowing where she is. She's forgetting who people are, and she has to figure it out along with a guy she does not remember, but everybody is saying that she knows. And this was a wild adventure. I really enjoyed it. It was very different, and this was also a 4 stars. All right, next let's talk about The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which also had a beautiful cover. Our main character is Avery, and she's a typical high schooler. She's hoping to get a scholarship, to go to college, and all of a sudden she finds out that she has inherited millions of dollars from a man she does not know. And she has to go to the house and interact with this family who, of course, are very suspicious and angry that they've lost their inheritance. And she's trying to figure out what is going on. And I also believe this is setting us up for a series. Now, I know that sounds like it was really good, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I'm not going there, but it was a 3 star for me. I don't know. I was expecting a little bit more, and there are a few parts where I was a little bit bored. So 3 stars, might give the sequels a try. Maybe it'll pick up a little. Might have been my mood. I don't know. But yeah, 3 stars is probably where it's going to be. Next, we have The Cousins by Karen McManus. She's the one who wrote One of Us is Lying. I believe this is her 4th young adult mystery thriller, and this is her first 5 star for me. This is about Millie, Aubrey, and Jonah, who are cousins, first cousins, but they really don't know each other. Their parents were disinherited and kicked off of this island where their grandparents lived and had a lot of money and pretty much run this elite island. When the parents were about college age, the father died, and then the mother pretty much wrote all of them a letter saying, I want nothing to do with you anymore, you're cut off. And she does, she cuts them off. And this is years later, where their kids are now about 17, and the grandmother sends this weird letter saying, I want you guys, my grandchildren, to come to the island and work. I think it would be great work experience. And of course, the parents want the kids to go because they have no clue why they got cut off to begin with. Or do they? So, like I said, all of her books before this were 4 stars for me, but she finally hit the nail on the head. This was 5 stars. I could not figure out what was going on. It kept me guessing. I was just thrilled the whole time. And when we got to the whodunit, what's going on, totally did not expect it to go there. So, highly recommend this book. And this book just came out. I believe it came out the 1st of December. All right, next we're moving on to They Wish They Were Us. This is also a book I've finished quite recently. In this book, our main character is Jill. She's in this very elite, prestigious private high school where there's this kind of secret society of people who have access to old test papers, files that can help them get their grades really high, files that can pretty much assure them that they can pass whatever tests they need to go to the Ivy League schools. And also, we have that story going on. And then we also have the fact that the freshman year, when she was joining in with this kind of secret group, her best friend was killed in one of the initiation things, and her boyfriend was blamed. He confessed, he went to jail, and now the older sister, 3 years later, now that Jill is a senior, has come forward and said he doesn't actually remember doing anything. It was kind of a coerced confession. So she's kind of dealing with this secret group that called themselves the Players, and then also trying to figure out what really happened to her best friend. I thought it was really good. I was very entertained throughout, and I gave it 4 stars. Next, we have Otherworld, which I read a while ago. This is another book about virtual reality, which I very much enjoy. I love books about virtual reality. In this particular book, our main character, Simon, his best friend, Kat, has gone into some kind of coma from some kind of accident, and they've hooked her up into some kind of virtual reality world while she's in this coma. So Simon finds a way into this virtual reality world and finds out not everything is what it seems. He can't even figure out why Kat is in this virtual reality world. He doesn't know how to get them out of this virtual reality world, and you go on a crazy ride. This is a first in a trilogy, I believe. Yes, because I bought the 2nd and 3rd book. Haven't read them yet, but am very much looking forward to it. And once again, 4 stars. That's a very popular rating for me. All right, next we have Losing Leah. I believe this was from one of my Skittle TBR videos. From the synopsis, I believed that it was about a set of twins where Mia is the main character and her twin Leah disappeared 10 years ago. And you kind of go back and forth between Mia in her normal world and Leah in her kidnapped world where she's controlled by this woman called Mother. And I was really enjoying it for a while, and then it took a left turn, and I was like, what? What? No. So for me, I ended up giving this maybe 2 stars just because I did not like the turn that it took. You might read it and think it's a great left turn. It might be, to you, it might have been a right turn, but for me, I just was like, the whole bottom fell out. I was like, what? I don't feel like that even makes sense. So yeah, only 2 stars for me. Next we have Spellbook of the Lost and Found. This is another one of these books that has a great creepy atmosphere going on. This book has numerous main characters. There's just so many different characters. I really couldn't pinpoint one as being the main character. But things in this town start going missing, and we're kind of following 2 groups of friends who are kind of experiencing the same thing where things are going missing. And one group comes across a spell book where they can call back lost things. I don't want to tell you too much. This book was, I gave it 3 stars. Well, 3.5 stars. I'll give it 3.5 stars. Like I said, I love the mood of it. And it definitely took me to a place I wasn't expecting it to go. It did get a little slow in some parts for me, so that's why I say 3.5 stars. But I think a lot of you might really enjoy this one. You know me, I've got ADD, so if it goes a little bit slow, sometimes it loses me. Next we have The Cheerleaders, which has also been a while since I read it. I had to look at the synopsis to remember which book was this. But in this book, about 5 years ago, about I guess 5 or 6 cheerleaders died in weird and mysterious ways, and because of that, the school has decided not to have cheerleaders. Instead, they have kind of these dancers. And Monica is our main character, and her sister was one of these cheerleaders who died in a really weird way. And she is now a dancer, which is pretty much a cheerleader. They've just kind of changed the name. And Monica starts to discover weird clues, weird text, weird messages that start to kind of unravel what really went down 5 years ago. Because it looks like it was a bunch of just really random accidents. And now she's starting to realize there was a lot more to it. So I'm trying to think, what did I rate this? It's been so long. I think I rated this maybe 4 stars. I know you're going, you always rate it 4 stars. Well, yeah, I think it was about a 4-star read for me. I'm going to stick with 4 stars for this one. Next, we have Clickbait. Now, this one I remember, oh, this was a fun book for me. So in this book, Chloe has decided that she is going to infiltrate the coolest clique in school. Why? Because the year before, her best friend was able to get into the coolest clique in school, and she ended up dead. So now Chloe is determined that she is going to infiltrate this group to find out what exactly happened and to take revenge. This book was a roller coaster ride. It was so much fun. It wasn't like a deep, profound novel. Obviously, it was a YA mystery thriller. But if you're going just for like fun and entertainment, then it was definitely a 5-star if you're just judging it on that. Next, we have The Ravens, which I really enjoyed. I mean, how can you go wrong when we're talking about a sorority that is actually a coven of witches? This is also a pretty new release. We have 2 main characters. We have Scarlet and then we have Vivi. Scarlet has always known she's a witch. All the women in her family have been in this sorority. She's expected to one day be president. You know, she has a lot of expectations that are put on her. Vivi is a new freshman to the school. She doesn't know why she got a full scholarship to the school. She doesn't even know she's a witch. And so everything for her is brand new. And Scarlet and Vivi don't really hit it off. And then they are kind of assigned to each other because Scarlet is assigned to be her big sister in this sorority. This book was a lot of fun. Like I said, you have a sorority full of witches. I mean, doesn't that sound great? And of course, somebody, you know, a few years ago or a year ago, there was one of the witches, you know, did something and died. And now there might be another witch trying to get revenge. So we have like a bit of a mystery going on, as well as trying to, you know, Vivi trying to make it into the sorority and survive. Lots and lots of fun. 4.5 stars. Recommend this one a lot. Good gracious, I don't even think I'm halfway done. Next, we have The Apothecary, which is definitely probably more of a middle school, but you know, whatever, we're gonna go with it. It's set in 1952, and 14-year-old Janie has just moved to London, and she's met this apothecary and his son, and then the apothecary goes missing. And Janie and the apothecary's son Benjamin find this apothecary book of spells and charms, and they use it to try to find the father. And it was just a really fun book. I thought it was very delightful, very whimsical. I know you guys are gonna kill me for this, but this was also a 4-star. I would definitely recommend this also to younger kids to read. It would be okay. All right, now we're getting to what I think is going to be my favorite YA of the year. But before I do that, please hit subscribe and please hit that notification bell if you haven't already. My upload schedule is completely erratic. That's why that notification bell is very important. I don't have an upload schedule, but if you're enjoying what you're seeing and you want to know when other videos come out, please hit that subscribe button. But anyway, so I think I have found what is my favorite YA of the year, and I read the first 2 books of a trilogy. Some of you might be familiar, some of you might not, and it is the Aurora Rising. I read both these babies in a row and adored them. I mean, definitely, I'm trying to think. I don't think there has been another YA book that I have loved as much as I've loved these 2. And there has to be a 3rd one coming, I just don't know when. And since I can't tell you about the sequel, I guess I will just tell you about the first one. And you know what's so sad, guys? I only purchased this book because it was purple and I wanted to put it on my purple shelf. Little did I know it was going to be a book that was going to just rock my world. So it is set in the year 2380, so we are way in the future. This is another one of those books that has so many different characters, I really couldn't pinpoint a main character, really. But in this future, we have learned how to travel, I guess, like warp speed or interdimensionally or whatever, super fast in space. But the only people who can do it are, I believe you can only be like between the ages of like 16 to 24, something to do with your brain. Otherwise, your brain gets melted. So pretty much teenagers and young adults are tasked to, you know, travel the, you know, space and do all the space travel. And Tyler Jones and his sister have just graduated from the Aurora Academy, and he, got top honors, so he gets to kind of pick whoever he wants for his dream team or squad for his, spaceship. Except he misses the meeting to go pick his squad mates because he finds a girl who has been frozen in time or in a cryo sleep for 2 centuries. He rescues her, and because he rescues her, he ends up missing the opportunity to pick who he wants and ends up getting all the rejects. But are they rejects? They end up maybe being a great team. This story just, oh my gosh, I don't want to tell you too much, but I loved being in space. I told my husband, I was like, it was kind of a cross between Star Wars and Star Trek. And if you don't watch those or know those, then you don't know what I'm talking about. But I loved it, and then I got to jump into this one, and I was so excited, and I thought it was a duology, and I was going, wow, we're getting to the end of this book, and we have a lot more to talk about. So I'm assuming it's a trilogy. I have also heard that this is being made into either a movie or a TV show. I don't care what it is. I am excited if they're planning to do that, and I hope they follow through. But highly, highly, highly recommend these books. So next we have These Broken Stars. I did jump into this because I was in a very space state of mind after those other books. So in this book, this luxury space liner crashes into the nearest planet, and there's only 2 survivors. Lilac, who is the daughter of the richest man in the universe, and Tarver, who comes from nothing. He's just a young war hero. And it's about them being on this planet and trying to figure out what's going on, why is help not coming, and how they need to kind of work together. I believe this is the first in a series. For me, this book was only 3 stars. I mean, I enjoyed it while I was reading it, but I didn't feel like I needed to find out what happened next, if you know what I mean. So yeah, 3 stars. Don't know what else to say about this book. 3 stars, it was okay. Next we have Ready Player 2. I know probably half of BookTube has read this, but I haven't actually seen anybody review it, so I don't know how it's faring out there. I can just give you my opinion on it. I enjoyed it, but I was a kid of the 80s and a teenager of the 90s, and if I had been born in 2002, I don't think I would have liked this book very much. I didn't like it as much as the first one because I felt the first half of it was just a huge info dump. Now granted, there was a lot of information to give us, I understood that, but it was like we had to get halfway through and get all this information before the story actually started. Once the story actually started, then I thought it was really great because I got all the little Easter eggs, and I mean, there were little Easter eggs all over the place. But unless you are just an avid 80s and 90s fan, or you're like me and you actually lived during the 80s and 90s, I don't think you would get most of the references. I mean, if this book was referencing things from the 60s and 70s, I would have missed most of it because some of them were just so little and just kind of put in there, there's, without a reference or explaining it to you. So if you were an 80s kid or a 90s kid, or you were born before the year 2000, then yes, I would recommend this book. It's going to take you on a wild ride, and you'll get to remember so many pop culture songs and movies and whatnot. But if you weren't around then, I just don't think you would get it, and it wouldn't be that entertaining to you. So I don't know what everybody else is saying about it, but that's my opinion. Next, we have How to Hang a Witch. And it has been so long since I read this, I'm trying to remember. But the main character is Samantha. She's moved to Salem, Massachusetts, and unfortunately, her grandfather was one of the prosecutors during the Salem witch trials. Meanwhile, there's a clique of people, or clique of high schoolers, who are the descendants, I guess, of some of the witches, and are kind of known as being cool because of it. In fact, this clique, they actually call themselves the Descendants because they're the descendants of the witches. And then she finds herself confronted by a ghost who might or might not have been there during the Salem witch trials. I know that sounds really exciting, but I honestly can hardly remember this book. So I'm going to say it's 3 stars because if it was better than that, I would think I would remember it better and I wouldn't keep going back to the synopsis. So I probably enjoyed it as I read it, but I don't think it was like super memorable. So we're going to go with 3 stars. Next we have All Your Twisted Secrets. This was a very fun book. This book kind of has a Breakfast Club vibe in the fact that we have like the queen bee, the athlete, the stoner, the loner, the music geek, all these kind of different stereotypical high school characters who are invited to this scholarship dinner. And when they get there, they get locked into a room and realize that this is not a scholarship dinner, that they have been put there for a reason. And they have been locked into this room where there is a bomb, but there's also a syringe of poison. And basically they're told, you need to sacrifice one of yourselves or the bomb will go off and kill everybody. So it was fun and exciting. It twisted and turned. Highly enjoyed it. 4.5 stars. Next we have Light as a Feather. It's also been a while since I read this, and I did read it and then went and watched the Hulu series, and then the Hulu series was good at the beginning and then, oh, it took a horrible left turn. Do not watch, do not watch. So I guess you would say the main character is this girl named McKenna, who's very excited that she has been accepted into this in-group of girls, and it's one of the girls' birthdays, so there's some kind of slumber party. But there's another new girl named Violet who suggests that they play the game Light as a Feather, Stiff as a Board, where she predicts their untimely, gross deaths, and then unfortunately these deaths start occurring, and McKenna is trying to figure out what is happening. Now, I enjoyed the book. I thought it was pretty good, 4 stars. But like I said, the show, don't do it. Just don't do it. Don't. All right, next we have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This is yet another book that follows that very popular YA mystery thriller trope where somebody died 4 or 5 years ago. We all thought we knew who did it, and now there's clues popping up that are making us realize that not what went down was not correct and maybe somebody else was involved. If you guys read a lot of YA mystery thriller, you know the trope I'm talking about. It's very, very common. Doesn't mean I didn't enjoy this, but I think this is the 3rd book that I read that had this trope in it. So in this book, we have the main character of Pip, and it's supposed to be 5 years earlier. A popular girl named Andy was killed by her boyfriend. This guy named Sal, and Pip knew Sal growing up and always thought that it was odd because, you know, he didn't seem like the type who would murder his girlfriend. And she decides that she's going to re-examine the case for one of her school projects. And as she's examining it, she is definitely, you know, ruffling feathers of people who do not want this case, you know, messed with, which obviously means there are secrets and it was probably not solved correctly. And we go on this adventure and it was pretty good. It was exactly what I expected to be. And I hate to say this again, but 4 stars. Next we have There's Someone Inside Your House. This was definitely a scary book. I believe I read this in October. So McConaughey comes to live in rural Nebraska with her grandmother, and basically people just start dying off one by one in gruesome ways. And each murder is more and more brutal, and the main character, McConaughey, if I'm remembering correctly, is just trying to figure out who it is. And it's just that, I know that sounds very basic, but it was very scary and the murders were scary. And I mean, it was exactly what I expected it to be for a scary October read. And I know y'all are probably rolling your eyes, but 4 stars. Next we have The Key to Fear. And before I even tell you what it's about, I gave it 3 stars. So I'm not giving everything 4 stars. So this book was definitely very creepy to read during 2020, which it was released this year, because it's about how, you know, the world, there was some kind of pandemic and now nobody touches anybody and people, I guess, have babies in labs. And our main character is Elodie, who is a nurse who starts noticing that things are kind of off. And everything is run by the key that kind of tells them, you know, what they should do to stay safe. And she starts to realize that maybe she's been lied to a bit, and maybe she doesn't need to be so as like sterile living as she has to be. And she starts an adventure. I believe this is also the first in the series. It had some really good points where I was into it, and then other points where, you know, I wasn't all that into it. So 3 stars. If you're really into sci-fi and pandemic stuff, then you might rate it higher, but it was 3 stars for me. All right, next we have The June Boys. Another 3 stars. Okay, I'm redeeming myself. So in this book, there's this thief. He's called the Gemini Thief. And I believe every summer, he kidnaps 3 boys, holds them for a year, lets them go, kidnaps 3 more boys, and this has been going on for years and years and years. And our main character, Thea, really gets involved when one of her cousins is one of the 3 boys who is taken. But then the unfortunate happens. One of the 3 boys shows up. His dead body is found somewhere. And that's the one thing that has never happened. Even though these boys are kidnapped for a year, they're always released. You know, I'm not saying unharmed, but, you know, they're alive. And now we actually have one that is dead. And unfortunately, our main character also starts to suspect that it may be an adult that she knows, because there's just certain things happening that make her think that this might be close to home. And it was an okay book. Enjoyed it while I was reading it. I kind of had a little bit higher hopes for it. Like I said, I enjoyed some parts, and some parts because I was a little bored. So that's why it was a 3-star book. So, yeah, the June Boys. Next we have This Lie Will Kill You, and Danny from Current Chapter and I read it in the same month, unknowing that the other person was reading it, because I kind of wish we had read it together. So 5 teenagers are invited to this isolated mansion with the hopes of winning $50,000, but in reality they are also the 5 teenagers that caused another teenager's death the year before, and somebody is out for revenge. I know this is very tropey. This book was, in some parts, I enjoyed it. I thought, okay, it's going pretty good, and then some parts were a little bit corny. This is the best way I can describe it. Danny reviewed this book, and when she was talking about it and I was looking at her face, I knew exactly what she was talking about. Where this book, you know, sometimes you're like, wow, this is really good. I kind of like where this is going, and then it would be like, that's just weird. It's just weird and corny. So this was yet another, I'll give it 3 stars. I mean, I enjoyed it while I was reading it. So, yeah, do with it what you will with that information. Make that choice for yourself. All right, now we have another book that is not a 4-star read, because this was actually a 5-star read, and it was a quick read, but I loved it so much. The Last Girl on Earth, and that's literal. She's literally the last girl on Earth, or is she? Have to read the book to find out. So basically, Lee, when she was a baby, aliens took over the Earth, and at first they tried to work with humans, but I guess we were not really willing to work with them very well, so they decided, hey, we're just gonna kill you off. And she is taken in by a human sympathizer who is able to, I guess, change her appearance in such a way that she's able to get away with looking like an alien so that nobody suspects that she's a human. And not only does her father, you know, change her appearance slightly so she can fit in as an alien, he has to do rigorous physical training with her so that she can physically keep up with the other alien kids so she doesn't stand out. And then she meets an alien guy named Rin, and the story is just, I don't want to tell you anymore because I've told you so much, but it goes in a very interesting place, and I love this book so much, and you can read it really quickly. You could probably read it in a day, and I recommend that you do. So our main character is Astrid. She lives among royalty, and basically what happens is if the princess messes up, she's the one who gets punished. She's the one who gets whipped, you know, to upset the princess so that hopefully she won't mess up again. So, you know, not living the best life here. And then Astrid gets a chance to be in this race. And in this race, they knock you out and take away all your memories. And they only get all these cryptic clues to try to figure out what they're doing and where they should be going. But if she wins this contest, then she wins her freedom. And I enjoyed this book so much. This was a 5-star read. The Naturals. So in this story, the FBI or CIA, who is it? It's the FBI. The FBI are recruiting young people who are very talented in one way or another. Our main character, Cassie, is 17 and she's really good at reading people, but she also wants to join this FBI group of young people because her mother was murdered in a very brutal way, and she's hoping that by joining this group she can also figure out, you know, who killed her mother. This is a first in a series, and this was a 4-star read. I really enjoyed it, and I probably will pick up the next book eventually, someday. And thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.